With a population only slightly above 150 people, Landgrove is one of the smaller towns in Bennington County, a rural area that sits between the surrounding towns of Peru, Londonderry, and Weston. It will be holding its town meeting this year in the same way many larger communities are, when the townspeople would normally be gathering for town meeting at the town hall. Instead, it will be via a conference call system. Voting for officers and articles in the town meeting warning will take place by Australian ballot, instead of via the traditional floor vote. Ballots will be mailed to all registered voters and can be returned by postpaid envelope or in person on Election Day, March 2nd, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Town Hall for both the town meeting ballot and the Taconic and Green ballot. To get the inside look at what's on tap for the town meeting, we checked in with John Ogden, the chairman of the town select board.
We didn't really think this was the right year to be putting forth, huge budgetary items or, controversial items. Not that either of those things happen particularly often in Landgrove, but certainly this year was not the right year to do that. So we have a pretty straightforward warning this year. Nothing really too new on it. We have a pretty engaged population here, and I am certain that there will be some interesting discussion on even the sort of relatively small items that we have on there. People tend to do their due diligence pretty well in terms of looking at the budget and asking us about this, that, and the other thing on the budget. So my guess is that'll be the bulk of the conversation this year. We are actually sort of starting to edge down the road of trying to think about building a new municipal building to house our sand pile and our municipal vehicles, which is just a truck and a grader. We'd really like to be pushing that forward right now, but I think that we're not really ready to move it forward too much at the moment. And I think that we are going to, if we become ready to move it forward, we will talk about trying to convene a special meeting for that. But it just made sense for us to move ahead with town meeting on schedule, just to, to get all the budget stuff sort of taken care of. And I just feel better having sort of, moving through the year with a budget that's been approved by the national meeting. Our municipal tax rate is actually going up, a decent amount. I mean, you have to remember that we have our fluctuations are percentage wise a little bit exaggerated because we're such a small town and have a relatively small budget next to most towns. But I think a quick back of the envelope calculation here, I think our budget to budget general fund is going up almost right around 9%, which is significant. But there's a relatively it's an in-depth discussion, but a relatively easy explanation for that. And this is one of the things that I think is going to be a big topic of discussion, is that we're just finding that we are, the world is changing away from these little towns being able to self-govern in the way that they used to. So I've been sort of watching this change happen, and to be perfectly honest, it saddens me a little bit. But so a lot of the uptick in our budget is due to the fact that we're just having to hire out more tasks in town as they get more complicated, as the real estate valuations go up, the stakes just get higher. All the stuff with current use creates very complicated issues for the listers. The listers that we've always relied on and have done a great job over the years as, volunteers. I mean, we pay them, recently started paying them a stipend, but essentially volunteers. And we're just, finding that we're getting into a situation now where we, for just the time required as well as the sort of liability of all these things, we have to start hiring professional help for this stuff. We are looking at having to have a CPA firm look over auditors' shoulders, and our auditors do a fabulous job. But I just, it adds up to a decent amount of money. There it is. We live in a more complicated world, and it's much more difficult to run these towns in the kind of seat of the pants fashion that we used to. That isn't even necessarily a bad thing. It's just it is what it is, and it costs money.
Again, Landgrove's informational meeting will be held on March 1st, starting at 6 p.m. via teleconference, with Australian ballot voting to follow on March 2nd, between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.